Everyone tells you that building wealth takes time. They say be patient, stay consistent, keep grinding, and eventually you'll make it. But what they don't tell you is that there's a specific timeline where everything changes. A point where your money suddenly starts growing faster than you ever thought possible. And most people quit right before they hit it. That timeline is 18 months. And understanding why year 2 is when you actually get rich might be the most important financial lesson you'll ever learn. My name is Mike, and I've spent years studying why some people break through to real wealth while others stay stuck forever. And I've noticed something that nobody talks about. The people who get rich aren't necessarily smarter or more disciplined than everyone else. They just understood one critical truth. Year 1 builds the foundation, year 2 builds the fortune. If you're tired of hearing generic advice about patience and compound interest without understanding the actual mechanics of when money starts working for you, smash that subscribe button and drop a like. Today, we're breaking down exactly why 18 months is the magic number and what happens during year 2 that separates winners from quitters. Most people approach wealth building completely wrong. They think it's linear. They assume that if they save $1,000 in month 1, they'll have $12,000 by month 12 and $24,000 by month 24. The math checks out, so they expect steady, predictable progress. And when that's not what happens, they get discouraged and quit. The reality is wealth building isn't linear at all. It's exponential, and exponential growth is invisible at first. You're putting in maximum effort for what feels like minimum results. You're sacrificing, saving, investing, doing everything right, and your bank account barely seems to move. This is where 90% of people give up. They look at their progress after 6 months or even 12 months and think this isn't working. I've been doing everything the experts say, and I'm barely ahead of where I started. They don't realize they're standing right at the edge of the breakthrough. Let me show you exactly what happens during those critical 18 months and why year 2 is when everything explodes. Month 1 through 6 is what I call the invisible progress phase. You're saving your first few $1,000s. Maybe you're investing small amounts. You're cutting expenses and trying to increase your income. You're doing all the right things, but the numbers feel painfully small. You save $500 and it feels like nothing. You invest $1,000 and watch it sit there doing basically nothing. The psychological battle during these first 6 months is brutal. You're fighting every impulse to spend money on things you want. You're saying no to dinners with friends. You're driving your old car while everyone else seems to be upgrading. You're living below your means and it feels like you're sacrificing for no reason. But here's what's actually happening that you can't see yet. You're building the habits that will make you wealthy. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you automate an investment, you're setting up systems that will compound for decades. Every time you resist lifestyle inflation, you're becoming a different type of person. Month 6 through 12 is what I call the foundation phase. By now you might have $5,000 to $10,000 saved and invested. The numbers are starting to look more real, but the progress still feels slow. You're putting in the same effort, but your net worth is growing at basically the same pace it was 6 months ago. This is the danger zone where most people quit. They've been disciplined for half a year or more, and they're not seeing the exponential growth they were promised. They start thinking maybe this whole wealth building thing is overhyped. Maybe compound interest doesn't actually work the way everyone says it does. Maybe they should just enjoy their money now instead of waiting for some distant future payoff. The people who push through this phase understand something crucial. They're not saving money to have money sitting in an account. They're building a machine that will eventually run on its own. Every dollar they add to their investments is another worker in their wealth-building factory. Right now, they might only have a few workers, but soon they'll have an army. Month 12 through 18 is where things start getting interesting. You've probably got $15,000 to $25,000 working for you now. You're still contributing the same amount every month, but something different is happening. Your investments are starting to generate meaningful returns. If you're earning 8% annually on $20,000, that's $1,600 your money made without you doing anything. That might not sound like much, but think about what that represents. Your money just earned more than most people save in a year. Your investments are starting to do real work. This is when the psychology starts shifting. You're not just saving anymore, you're investing. You're not just accumulating dollars, you're building assets that produce more dollars. The mentality changes from how do I save more to how do I make my money work harder. Month 18 is the inflection point. This is where year 2 begins and everything changes. You've built enough momentum that compound interest starts becoming visible. Your monthly investment returns might equal what you're contributing, which means your money is working as hard as you are. Let me show you the math that makes this so powerful. Let's say you're investing $1,000 per month at 8% annual returns. During year 1, you contributed $12,000 and your investments earned you maybe $400. That's a nice bonus, but it's not life-changing. But in year 2, something magical happens. You're still contributing the same $1,000 per month. But now you're starting with about $12,400 in your account. By the end of year 2, you've contributed another $12,000, but your investments earned you about $2,000. That's 5 times more than year 1. The effort was identical, you saved the same amount. You invested in the same things, you took the same level of risk. But your results were 5 times better, and this acceleration continues. Year 3, your investments might earn $3,000. Year 4, they might earn $4,500. The gap keeps growing. This is why year 2 is when you actually get rich. Not because you suddenly have $1 million, but because you can finally see the machine working. You've crossed the threshold where your money is generating serious returns, and the psychology of wealth building completely changes. During year 1, you were wondering if this whole thing was worth it. During year 2, you're wondering how fast you can dump more money into investments because you can see them working. Year 1 was about discipline and delayed gratification. Year 2 is about momentum and acceleration. The people who quit during year 1 never see this transformation. They bail out right before the exponential curve starts bending upward. They spent 12 months building a foundation and gave up before they could build anything on top of it. They're like someone who digs the foundation for a house, gets tired, and walks away right before construction begins. Here's what else happens during year 2 that most people don't talk about. Your income usually increases. You've been in your job or business for over a year. You've proven your value, you're more experienced and more confident. You're in a better position to negotiate raises or take on higher paying work. Let's say you're making $60,000 in year 1 and you get a 10% raise in year 2. That's an extra $6,000 annually. If you're disciplined and avoid lifestyle inflation, that entire raise can go straight into investments. Now, instead of investing $12,000 per year, you're investing $18,000. The acceleration compounds on itself. Your expenses also tend to stabilize or even decrease during year 2. In year 1, you were probably still figuring out your budget, making mistakes, occasionally overspending. By year 2, you've locked in your systems, you know exactly where your money goes. You've cut the fat from your budget and optimized your spending. The combination of higher income, lower expenses, and compound returns creates a perfect storm of wealth acceleration. This is why successful people always talk about momentum. Once you get it going, everything becomes easier, but you have to survive long enough to reach the tipping point. Year 2 is also when opportunities start appearing that weren't available during year 1. When you only had $5,000 saved, you couldn't take advantage of most investment opportunities. You couldn't buy into that real estate deal your friend mentioned. You couldn't invest in that small business that needed capital. You couldn't even max out your retirement accounts. But with $25,000 or $30,000 working for you, real opportunities become accessible. You can actually invest in things beyond basic index funds. You can take calculated risks that have asymmetric upside. You have enough capital to diversify into higher return investments. This is what wealthy people mean when they say money goes to money. It's not some cosmic conspiracy. It's that having capital gives you access to opportunities that generate more capital. The gap between people with money and people without money gets wider over time, not because of luck, but because of access. The psychological transformation during year 2 is just as important as the financial one. During year 1, you were constantly battling doubt, wondering if you were doing the right thing, questioning whether the sacrifices were worth it, fighting the urge to give up when progress felt slow. Year 2 is when that doubt evaporates. You can see your net worth climbing faster every month. You can see your investment returns growing. You can see the machine working. The delayed gratification isn't delayed anymore. You're experiencing the gratification of watching your wealth compound. This confidence shift affects everything. You become more aggressive about increasing your income because you know exactly where that extra money will go. You become more disciplined about controlling expenses because you've seen what happens when you invest instead of spend. You start thinking in years and decades instead of weeks and months. The people who make it through 18 months develop what I call wealth consciousness. They stop thinking like consumers and start thinking like investors. They see every dollar as a worker that could be generating returns. They calculate opportunity cost automatically. They've internalized the principles that took effort to follow during year one. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. If you quit before 18 months, you learn nothing. You put in all the hard work of year one without getting any of the rewards of year two. You're like someone who goes to the gym for 6 months, sees minimal results because muscle building takes time, and quits right before their body was about to transform. The tragedy is that most people quit during month 8 or 9 or 10. They make it more than halfway to the breakthrough and give up because they can't see what's coming. They don't understand that the exponential curve is just starting to bend upward. They judge their entire strategy based on linear progress when wealth building is exponential. This is why understanding the 18-month rule is so critical. When you know that year two is when acceleration happens, you can push through the slow, painful months of year one. You can stay disciplined when progress feels invisible because you know what's waiting on the other side. The difference between people who build wealth and people who stay broke often comes down to this. Wealthy people understand delayed gratification on a timeline that makes sense. They know it takes 12 to 18 months to build real momentum. Broke people expect immediate results and quit when they don't get them. Think about every successful business you know. Almost none of them were profitable in year one. Most were barely surviving, grinding through the early stages. Building systems and processes. Year two is when revenue starts growing faster. When the business model proves itself, when momentum builds, wealth building works exactly the same way. If you're currently in month 6 or 8 or 10 and you're feeling discouraged, you're right on schedule. The slow progress you're experiencing is normal. You're supposed to feel like this. Everyone who builds wealth goes through this exact same phase. The only difference is they didn't quit. Keep contributing to your investments. Keep controlling your expenses. Keep increasing your income. Keep building the foundation. Because month 18 is coming, and when it arrives, everything changes. Year two is when you stop asking if this is working and start asking how much faster you can make it work. The 18-month rule isn't just about money. It's about becoming the type of person who can delay gratification long enough to see exponential results. It's about building systems that work even when motivation fades. It's about understanding that real wealth isn't built in days or weeks or even months. It's built in years, but the beautiful part is that year two arrives faster than you think. 18 months from now will come whether you're building wealth or not. The only question is whether you'll look back and wish you had started, or whether you'll be experiencing the acceleration that comes from pushing through. Start today because year one is the hardest year you'll ever face financially. It's all sacrifice with minimal visible reward. But year two is where you get paid back for every dollar you saved and every impulse you resisted. That's when you actually get rich. Drop a comment and let me know what month you're on in your wealth building journey. And if this video changed how you think about the timeline for getting rich, subscribe to Mike Capital because we're just getting started.